and welcome back to Hackers After Dark. I'm Anna London, and tonight we're diving into a topic that sits at the intersection of technology, culture, and leadership. How technical innovation really lives in the language we use, and why keeping high standards of communication matters across generations. When we think about technical progress, we often focus on code, networks, and the latest models or gadgets. And while those things are, in fact, important, true progress isn't just about what we build. It's about how we talk about it, how we share knowledge, and how we collaborate. Language is a technical artifact in its own right, shaping how ideas move, how teams align, and how organizations adapt to a changing workforce. Okay, let's talk about, not just large language models. We're going into real innovation in communication here, okay? So let's start with the premise that innovation isn't only about the next big software or hardware breakthrough. It's also about designing better conversations. From clear documentation protocols to structured feedback loops, the language we use acts as a blueprint for how we work. When a team agrees on a vocabulary, reduces ambiguity, and defines success in concrete terms, we cut risk, speed up onboarding, and actually ship better products. And it's not just jargon. It's about building rituals, daily stand-ups, postmortems, run books, those that encode best practices in language. A well-crafted incident report isn't just telling you what happened, it's teaching you how to prevent it next time, okay? Let's talk about Gen Z in the workplace, right? Fresh voices and shifting norms. The current entry cohort, Gen Z, brings new communication styles, channels, and cultural norms, okay? They value authenticity, rapid feedback, and clarity. And that can feel disruptive if it's misread as a mandate to drop standards. But here's the key. It's an invitation to re-examine how we teach and transfer knowledge, not a license to lower the bar, right? And my son's a Gen Zer, okay? He's in the Air Force serving at this time, so he's definitely mature for his age. A 21-year-old young gentleman growing up, I'm super proud. So this is not a ding against Gen Z by any means. It's a recognition of progress and problem solution-based discussion in this episode, okay? It's about meeting people where they are while preserving outcomes, okay? We can welcome modern expression while maintaining a shared baseline of professional language that supports performance. The goal isn't to erase expertise. It's to ensure expertise is accessible and actionable. Okay, let's talk about respect, tradition, and humility, because it's a two-way street. And this is where the conversation gets real. Veteran voices carry a reservoir of tacit knowledge and high standards. Those standards should remain non-negotiable. We shouldn't expect seasoned professionals to dim their expectations to accommodate trends that don't move the needle. Okay? We've all seen new terms come and go, right? Many of us that have been in the game for 35 years and forward, right? I'm in Gen X, so I've seen a lot of terms come and go. Some useful, some noisy, okay? What matters is whether they help or hinder, okay? Yeah, that's the bottom line up front here. If a term promises clarity and actually delivers outcomes, great. If it's just a flash, we push back, not to gatekeep, but to protect the integrity of our work. And the other side, the newcomers, right, bring fresh perspectives, of course, energy and questions that force, to explain, to justify, to prove. Humility goes both ways, okay? We should be curious, ask questions, and acknowledge when we don't know something. That mutual respect accelerates learning from everyone, okay? Let's talk about the trendy language trap and why words alone don't move mountains. A practical caution here. Trendy words don't automatically advance projects or careers, okay? I see a lot of videos on LinkedIn about how we should incorporate Gen Z terminology like Riz and other things into our daily vernacular. Well, I disagree, because they can mislead if they're used as shortcuts around real understanding, right? And they don't automatically advance projects or careers. Every one of our generations has seen a different, trending a vernacular arise, right? Some stays, some goes. But if you want to level up in top tier organizations, you need more than buzzwords and trend words. You need demonstrated competence. Okay, that's my point here. And many pedigree firms like, think McKinsey, KPMG, Ernst & Young, and Deloitte, right? There's an expectation to pair industry insight with foundational technical language. ITIL, service catalogs, and core ITSM vocabulary aren't optional. They're baseline literacy for meaningful contribution. You can't fake it with trendy phrases here, right? So let's leverage a practical playbook because language can be used as a capability, not a hindrance. And here's a practical playbook you can start using today, right? Create a living glossary, define roles, processes, and key concepts. Keep it accessible and up to date. Prioritize clarity over trendiness, right? When a term is ambiguous, define it. Provide context, examples, and use cases for new concepts. Teach in both directions. Leaders model deliberate communication. Teams share domain knowledge in accessible terms. Align language with outcomes. Tie terminology to measurable goals like cycle time, defect rates, customer impact, right? Foster inclusive dialogue. Create safe forums for questions and constructive feedback, right? There's a lot of imposter syndrome, right? And that's what I'm directing this to, right? A lot of folks are afraid to ask questions, or they come and think they know it all, right? And, on day one, and they have a lot to learn, okay? Just getting out of college without any type of hands-on experience. So, treat documentation as living practice. Okay, it's not a one and done. So update your run books and design notes as language and practices evolve, right? Processes, policies, right? Everything should be updated. It's not a one and done. Everything, honestly. Study the fundamentals. For career advancement in top firms, invest in foundational certifications and frameworks like ITIL, ITSM concepts, and service catalogs. Trendy words and buzzwords won't substitute for proven standards and vocabulary, okay? Let's talk about the reality check. No humble pie for humble pie's sake here, right? Look, a note on balance, okay? Respect for veteran expertise doesn't mean never challenging someone, respectfully that is. It means asking for justification, sharing evidence, and learning from each other, okay? And for Gen Z and newer entrants, it means stepping up with curiosity, rigor, and a willingness to understand the history behind the decisions we're making today. We should aim for a culture where questions are welcomed and where trendiness doesn't replace substance. When someone asks, why does this matter? The answer should be tied to outcomes and impact, right? So I'm going to address some audience Q&A, right? Some listener letters. We asked you to send in questions and experiences about language and innovation. Here are a few, right, that I'm going to share with you today. The first one is, how do you balance speed of delivery with maintaining high standards of communication? Well, the answer is, prioritize concise, outcome-focused updates, formalize critical decisions, and use structured templates to keep pace without sacrificing clarity, right? Second question, what about veterans who feel pressured to lower their standards to fit a younger team? Well, the answer here is acknowledge the value of experience, insist on clear reasoning, and cultivate mutual respect. Humility is a shared practice, right? And we should not lower the bar in communication at all, actually, right? We shouldn't be talking in shortcuts and what have you. Those younger folks have a lot to learn from the older folks, believe it or not, right? Language is a foundation, for innovation and should be used as such. We've seen that technical innovation thrives where technology and language intersect. So by cultivating clear, purposeful communication rooted in shared understanding and tied to outcomes, not trends and TikToks, right? We empower teams to innovate more effectively, onboard newcomers with confidence, and sustain progress in an ever-evolving landscape. Language isn't a luxury. It's a foundational tool for engineering better futures, right? So in closing, honor expertise, embrace humility, lead with principled communication and integrity. Welcome questions, balance tradition with new ideas. Keep language a living practice, not a relic of the past or a trend to chase. And a final note here, trendy words alone won't move the needle. For those aiming at top-tier organizations, complement every new term with a study of standards, like ITIL service catalogs and foundational technical knowledge, okay? Incredibly important. Thanks for listening to Hackers After Dark. And if you found value in this conversation, share it with your team, and drop us a note about how you're applying better language practices in your own work. So until next time, stay curious, stay precise, and keep hacking with purpose, right? Ethically, that is. All right, this is Anna London signing out.